That's the UCLA I know, remember. Mick Cronin's got to be at least not angry. The Bruins kept him under 60, got the win. First win in 2026, and hopefully more coming on the way.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back every day. We're talking about UCLA men's hoops. The Bruins get the job done against Maryland. Last year, Maryland was very good, a tournament team. This year, the Bruins are floating on the edge of contention for the tournament, being a decent Big Ten team. But UCLA in this game against the Maryland team that has suffered some significant injuries were able to play a game that looked more like Mick Cronin's style of basketball. A team that kept the other under 60, UCLA playing with less than 70 points scored. And despite being shorthanded, they grinded, they kept possessions, they took advantage of the opponent's mistakes. And other than a dominant rebounding display by Maryland, UCLA, in most facets of this game, played much better than Maryland. The only problem was UCLA couldn't rebound the dang basketball. Maryland out-rebounded UCLA by almost 20. They had 20 offensive rebounds, 20 to UCLA's 5. So for UCLA to shoot better than Maryland by almost 13%, but the Terrapins have 15 more shots, take 33 threes. UCLA stole the ball from Maryland. So you're wondering, hey, why did Maryland turn it over almost 7 more times and the Bruins allow a lot more shots? The Terrapins were rebounding. They had a couple of guys with 12 rebounds. They had Adams with 6. They were relentless on the offensive glass. So we're going to start to see probably some shakeup. UCLA in this game without Sky Clark, which meant their three-point shooting took a hit. The Bruins did not go 1 for 17, although 5 for 17 is not going to help this team's average. UCLA hit almost as many threes as Maryland while taking half as many shots, and the Bruins got to the line. They just did not convert. Let's talk about the stars in this game. With UCLA without their second leading scorer, it was Trent Perry, whose job was to shoot the three, score points, and be the other guard alongside Donovan Dent in the starting lineup. You look up and down the lineup, you're like, okay, guys had decent performances. I pinned my hopes on Eric Daly Jr. He scored. I thought UCLA might win this game by more than 5. They did. EDJ did a lot in 37 minutes. 15 points, 9 rebounds, was one of the only Bruins who would get in there and get a rebound, almost getting a double-double. Bilodeau, in foul trouble in 21 minutes played, still got his double figures, but his free throw shooting struggles, if you will, have started to rear its ugly head after making 24 in a row. He's 6 of 9. Donovan Dent, 7 assists, no turnovers, few rebounds, 8 points, but a 3 and 10 shooting, including an air ball late in the game where I'm wondering, okay, that's the shift to Big Ten play where he has not been as successful. Take that sidestep fadeaway jumper. Normally that's catch an iron, usually getting through the net, and this time he's hitting the bottom of the net from an air ball. So those are the things we're starting to see for Dent. Now you see Xavier Booker. He comes in, hits a 3, took a few of them tonight, hit his last one, but his numbers under 16 minutes with 5 points, no rebounds. Cronin was basically calling out Booker in the last game that if you can't play defense and you can't rebound, you're not going to be able to play. And I don't remember which possession it was, but it was one of the Maryland players, one-on-one against Booker defensively, blew right past him for a layup. I'm not sure if it was the first or second half, but that's the problem Mick Cronin is dealing with, putting all his big man hopes on Booker right now, when his small ball 5, Brandon Williams, was sitting out this game as well. That was announced before the game. No Brandon Williams and no Sky Clark. So UCLA ran a tight ship, about 8 guys this game. That included Eric Freeney, who normally doesn't play. So where did Mick Cronin pivot? Mick Cronin pivoted to Steven Jamerson. Jamerson, who I think if he played more in the Arizona game against the now number 1 Wildcats earlier in the year, UCLA would have won that game. They had the lead, they needed defense, energy, and rebounding, and Jamerson was on the bench. In this game today versus Maryland, 8 points, made all his shots, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, and brought the energy and was all over the court. Dancing on the baseline, dancing on the sideline, trying to make plays, keeping in bounds, some of which are smart plays, some of which aren't always the smart hustle plays. But he's the guy that brings the energy and the action. The problem is he can't stretch it. He's not a true offensive threat, but UCLA might just have to forego Jamerson being anything other than a lob threat while you let the other 4 run the offense. That's with a healthy Sky Clark. Now, when Brandon Williams is healthy, I wonder how much more we'll see if B. Will and Jamerson, as Booker's usage rate goes down more and more by the game. And I wonder if Booker, if he's going to get healthy, if that ankle is bothering him, can he get more minutes? Or is he truly on Mick Cronin's bad side? This is prior to his post-game comments, so I really don't know. But UCLA can't go through the Big Ten season and get it out rebounded by 20. Maryland's best player is Pharrell Payne. He averages 17 points, gets a few rebounds. That's their 6'9 center. He has not played in a few weeks. If he was a dominant beast in the paint, I would understand, okay, the rebounding margin the way it is. No, the Terps attacked the glass. Otherwise, this could have been a blowout. UCLA led by 17 at the break, and that's the one category that keeps this from being, in my mind, a complete performance. Mick Cronin's never going to always have that team that puts up 90, although this team is capable of doing so. This year's team is not capable of keeping teams under 60 or under 65 as much as Cronin would like, but for this year's team, this was as perfect as it gets. You shoot 40%, you keep your opponent to 30% shooting, under 20% from 3, you turn it over less than 10 times, you take advantage of their turnovers with points off turnovers. The Bruins got out on the break, 9 points to Maryland 0, were physical with their 7 steals, 15 assists on 22 made shots, and then they also were able to get a little bit of bench scoring while having 5 blocks. So the Bruins were swatting shots, getting in there, and led this game. Interestingly enough, this game had 8 lead changes. Just never any for the last, 30 plus minutes of this game when the Bruins asserted their authority and took control. Now, this isn't the type of game versus an opponent that you would think, okay, Maryland's healthy enough for a UCLA game at home that this can turn into a winning streak. The Bruins still have to go into the Eastern time zone and prove they can win in Big Ten play. Last year, I think one of their only wins was against Indiana, and that was a subpar Big Ten team last year that they even changed coaches, and their coach was already on the way out at that point. They're going to go into Penn State, who will be a tough matchup their next game. Then they go to Ohio State, which will be an early game for their body clock, being on the Pacific Standard Time. And we'll see how the Bruins play. If B. Will's healthy, I wonder how much of those minutes will go to him and not Booker. Or is Cronin going to rotate the 3, and whoever's giving the best minutes, who's ever given the most production, might get more minutes? Or is Cronin just completely done with Booker, and he's going to go small with Williams, and then mix in the energy and rebounding with the intense Steven Jamerson II? We'll see how it all plays out. Other than that, there was not a lot for Maryland. They had Adams, who had 17 points. They had Elijah Saunders, who had a few threes, 17 points, 12 rebounds. That was the guy who stood out in 34 minutes time. But for most part, UCLA was in control outside the opening minutes, and they made sure to play Mick Cronin-like basketball. After this game, though, you're only going to hear him talk about if you rebound like this on the road in the Big Ten, you're not going to win. And that's all he's going to harp on. Wow, what we've seen is a team that hasn't played defense, that hasn't been intense, that hasn't showcased what it's like to win on the road in the Big Ten. This is the type of performance, if they're consistent and don't get out rebounded by 20, this could lead to a successful run later in the year where the team is capable of outscoring and out defending. So far, they haven't been able to do both. In a crazy topsy-turvy schedule of the Big Ten, this is what's happened today. Penn State was close to beating Purdue. They were competitive. They put up points in West Lafayette. Penn State almost upsetting Michigan and competing with the Boilermakers. Nebraska, they earned themselves a very tough win, outscoring the Hoosiers on the road in Assembly Hall by 15 points in the second half. So some of the top 10 teams in the country were getting put on upset alert. And the one other Big Ten game of the day, Wisconsin, who UCLA just battled in Madison, went to Ann Arbor and beat a previously unbeaten Michigan team. So this Big Ten conference is all over the place. That's what's going to make UCLA what I thought was an easier road trip, going to Wisconsin, going to Iowa to start. The Bruins getting down by 2024. Maybe those are underrated teams because Wisconsin did not play well to start the year, and they got one of their signature wins of the conference season. Currently, the Big Ten standings look like this. UCLA is in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie in the standings at 3-2. That includes Minnesota, who just lost to USC. That includes Indiana, who the Bruins will host later this year. Ohio State, who the Bruins will go face in the next weekend. And they're just ahead in the standings of a 2-2 Iowa Hawkeye team and just ahead of a 2-3 USC team. So taking care of business at home will be instrumental in having a good season. Right now, UCLA unbeaten at home in the Big Ten. Now, can they go beat unranked teams in the Big Ten that could at least register as a quad 2? We'll find out, because the Bruins weren't as successful doing that last year. Overall, UCLA wins this game by 12. Rather uncompetitive. It was a solid performance for the Bruins. Definitely not a perfect performance. Mick Cronin will say anything but perfection, but a mostly complete one. Until next time, we'll talk UCLA men's hoops, women's hoops. If they can get to here West, we'll talk about it as well. But until next time, hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.